Hello everyone, I welcome you all to the Hindu Plus newspaper analysis discussion. Guys, I am really delighted to share that from now onwards, this particular session has been enhanced even more and it is your one-stop solution for entire current affairs. Why? Because not only now Hindu we are going to cover, but along with the Hindu, PIB, Indian Express, and the other important news which actually are not there sometimes into the newspapers but have been there in other media houses, they will also be collected and would be given here. Also, I would like to tell you that what we have also incorporated is that in order to make it more structured, now we have divided this entire session in two segments. One is mains oriented segment and others is prelims oriented segment. Actually, if you have observed in Hindu newspaper, many number of times there are certain initiatives, exercises that are there in the news, but in Hindu they are not there. So now you will get that. In the today's discussion, we are going to discuss these article for the mains examination, that is India's toy sector for GS paper number 3 manufacturing, then overhauling semiconductor scheme for GS paper number 3 sectors of economy, we are going to take this, then limits and borders GS paper number 2 federalism, Vaibhav fellowship GS paper number 2 issues related to diaspora, then for prelims Mpemba effect, Bhishma Cube project, exercise Khanjar, exercise Cyclone. So these are all the topics that we are going to take. Also, guys, I would like to tell you that MCQ questions, also mapping part will be there. It is not there in the today's session because actually it took today a lot of time to collect all these particular things. But mapping as well as the MCQ, it will be continued. Fine, you need not to be worried. So let's start with the discussion. And guys, in this entire session's synoptic notes you will get on Telegram channel as usual. So no need to worry. Everything that was there is being continued. More additions over and above that are being made so that for your UPSC examination you need not to refer anything for your current affairs. So first article that we are going to take today is India's toy exports. Now, this particular article we are going to take with respect to India's manufacturing sector, GS paper number 3. Now, before going in this particular article, as usual, we are going to take first of all background and then we'll go in this particular article. Now, guys, understand this particular thing that Prime Minister of India, Prime Minister of India during 2020 when COVID pandemic started came out with Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, and under Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan he gave a special emphasis to revive India's toy sector, to revive India's toy sector. Now, guys, when we talk about India, India has such rich tradition of mythologies. India has such rich tradition of mythologies. Then there are so many folk traditions, folklores that are there into the different parts. Then Panchatantra and all such kind of imaginative aspects have been there in the Indian tradition, Indian culture. But what has happened, we have not been able to create vibrant toy industry around these particular things. And today we actually before recent times we have been dependent on the other countries for the import of toys, and China happened to be one of the country which from which we imported a lot of toys. So Prime Minister gave a call to revive the toy industry in India. In this particular capacity, what has happened, there is a revival of the toy industry that has happened. And first of all, let's see the data with respect to the toy sector in India. So basically, guys, so basically here, if you focus on this particular graph, this particular table, we can find that in 2014 and 15, what was the total toy export? 1450 negative, 1450 crore negative. Now it includes the net exports. Net exports is export minus import. So actually we were importing a lot more toys. So therefore net export was in negative. However, if we see here by after 2021, as I told you that Prime Minister gave a call for reviving the toy industry. Here we see that India's toy export started becoming positive. Means we imported less and we exported more. So 451 crore, 1614 crore, 1319 crore. So here we see that post 2020-2021, India's toy exports have become positive, they have increased. So in this particular article, we are going to see that what has led to the revival of toy exports in India. One. Secondly, we are also going to see the prospects of toy exports in India, how well it can contribute to Indian economy. That also we are going to see. And for this particular thing, first of all, guys, here, if we see the prospects of the toy sector in India, we have this particular infographic here. Okay, so first we see this particular thing that as we talk about the Indian toy market, it stood around $1.3 billion in 2021, and the toy market of India, it is going to reach to $2 to $3 billion by 25-26. So there is a huge potential in the toy market in India. Also, if we see the growth rate, so it has been seen that there will be the 12.2% compound annual growth rate in the toy sector. 12.2% compound annual growth rate. Now, if we talk about 2020-21, India just has 0.5% of the global export share of the toys. But by the targeted interventions by the government, find our share in the global exports might go to 2% by 25-26. So these are all the low hanging fruits in the India. Also, if we little bit see the breakup of the toy industry in context of India, you see this particular thing that first of all, there are right now 4,000 toy manufacturing units in India. There are 4,000 toy manufacturing in India. 75% of micro units, 22% are small and medium enterprises, and 3% are the large players. So that here we see that more than 97, around 97% players in the toy manufacturing are the micro, small and medium enterprises. Now it is going to be a very big boost to our MSME sector also. And you know this thing that when we talk about the MSME, it happens to be the backbone of Indian economy. And as 97% of toy manufacturing is happening in MSME, and by the toy growth, MSME sector's growth will happen. Fine. So it is again going to be very big boost to the employment generation in India also. So these are all the aspects of the toy manufacturing in India. Now, guys, let's see basically India's toys export. So first of all, between 2014-15 to 22-23, toy exports have been increased by 239% and imports have been declined by 52%. Fine. Now, guys, whenever you are writing a question, please use these particular data in examination. Now, article says this particular thing that, see, the turnaround of the toy industry that has happened, it could be because of multiple factors. Number one, that turnaround could happen because of protectionism. Now let's understand this protectionism. So basically, guys, it has been said that imports declined. Why imports declined? It is because the duties, tariffs that were imposed onto the imported toys, it has been increased. And here if we see we have data also. For example, it is provided that in February 2020, custom duty on toys was tripled. Earlier 20% custom duty, if you are importing toy from China, you have to give 20% custom duty, but it got increased to 60%. And recently it actually has got to 70%. So when custom duty is increasing, means importing the toy will become expensive. Let's say toy's price was 100 rupees, you were paying 20%, 20 rupees. Now you are paying much more, around 60%. So because of that, imports have come down. This is one dimension that has come, that because of protectionism it has happened. Also, it has also been provided that investment upswing could also expand capacity and augment the labor productivity to boost competitiveness and exports. What has happened? More investment has been done in toy manufacturing, productivity of the toy manufacturing has been improved. Okay, more competitiveness have come into the Indian toy sector, and because of that, exports have increased. Now this particular article actually is providing this particular thing, that actually increased competitiveness is not the reason. Increased competitiveness is not the reason. So here, guys, if we see now, here the data has been given that uh, according to annual survey of industries, it has been said that labor productivity was 7.5 lakh rupees per worker in 2014-15, and it has come to 5 lakh rupees per worker in 2019-20. So productivity, how much output a worker is giving, that output earlier was 7.5 lakh rupees. I am a worker, my output's value is 7.5 lakh. Now that has come to 5 lakh rupees. So productivity has not increased. Also, it has been provided that if we see the annual survey of industry, there are some more important data come here. And guys, please use this data in some other answers also. It has been provided that, see, when we talk about the factories or organized sector, it account for 1% of the total number of factories in India. Out of the all the manufacturing units, factories that we have, organized sector is just 1%. They employ 20% of the workers. 63% of fixed capital, okay, it is there, and 77% of the value of output, it is manufactured by them. Okay, and here nothing much improvement has come. So this article is saying that India's toy sector that has revived, imports that have come down, it is largely because of the high trade barriers, high tariffs that have been imposed. Also, it has been provided that the non-tariff barriers, they have also been increased. For example, now there are mandatory quality inspections that are done, and by that also a lot of cheap quality of toys are being rejected. So this is the way that how India's imports of toys have been reduced. Now, article says this particular thing, that see, this protectionism sometimes it is justified. It is said this particular thing that you need to bring this protectionism for a limited period, because first industries needed to be given some support. Now see, if we restrict imports coming to India, what will happen? Our own homegrown sector will get a kind of a atmosphere in which they can thrive. Over a period of time, they will develop their unique skill sets, and even then in open market, they will be able to compete with the Chinese product. So such guided atmosphere, regulated atmosphere is to be provided. Okay, in this capacity, protectionism is justified, but only protectionism is not going to solve the problem for the times to come. What it is needed to be complemented with the investment policy also. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to focus on localized manufacturing of toy. We need to focus on cluster specific public infrastructure. Okay, so basically guys, what is the cluster specific public infrastructure? For example, we have the food parks, we have the textile parks. Now, as we have the food parks, textile parks, all the basic infrastructure that is needed by these utilities, they have been provided by the government. In the same way, toy parks, where the industries specifically focusing on manufacturing on toys could be deployed. Such kind of facilities have to be provided. Only then our toy industry will be able to face the international competition. So this is something to be done. Protectionism, increasing the import taxes, duties is good for the medium term, but for the long term, it is not going to be very helpful. So that is all guys about this particular article. And now moving to the next article. Need to overhaul a semiconductor scheme. Need to overhaul the semiconductor scheme. Now, this particular article we are going to see again with respect to GS paper number 3, GS paper number 3, sectors of Indian economy. Now, what this particular article is talking about? This article is talking about need to overhaul a semiconductor scheme. Now, recently, Government of India has come out with the DLI scheme. DLI stands for Design Linked Incentive Scheme. So here you can see design chips in India for the world. Design Linked Incentive Scheme. Now, what is this Design Linked Incentive Scheme? This particular scheme, it aims to promote the domestic semiconductor chip design industry. Now guys, first of all, what is a semiconductor chip? So semiconductor chips, these are thumbnail sized chips which give the computational capacity to electronic devices. Your computer, your mobile phone, in your cars, there are the semiconductor chips that are used to give them the computational capacity. Now, when we talk about a semiconductor chip, it's a design. When we talk about it, it's a design. Basically designing a semiconductor chip, it is a very big time avenue. Okay, because in order to ensure the maximum conductivity, in order to ensure that it has the optimum capacity, this designing aspect is a very important role. So therefore, what we have done, we are offering financial incentives, we are offering infrastructural support to the Indian companies so that they can focus on the development, deployment, and designing of the semiconductors. So here, if you see, what is the design linked incentive scheme? To nurture domestic companies of semiconductor design for integrated circuit chipsets, okay, IP cores, semiconductor linked design. Okay, now basically, the article is saying that recent now mid-term appraisal of this DLI scheme is due. Whether this particular scheme has been successful in the context of India, what benefit came, fine, what are the areas on which we need to focus more. So this review is pending soon. Now, article is giving certain suggestions that there are certain shortcomings in the design linked incentive scheme, and we need to rectify those particular shortcomings. We need to rectify those particular shortcomings. So, what the article is providing? Now, the article first of all provides that when we talk about the design linked incentive scheme, this particular scheme first of all has only up till now approved 7 startups. So what was the original goal? Original goal was this, that 100 startups which are working on the designing of the semiconductor, 100 startups will be promoted in the next 5 years. So means on an average every year you need to promote or you need to incentivize 50 startups. But up till now what has happened? Only 7 startups have been approved. So we are not going in line of meeting this a goal of incentivizing 100 startups. Okay, now what are the goals of this design linked incentive scheme? One by one we are going to understand. So first is to reduce the dependence on semiconductor imports. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that when we talk about the semiconductors today, they have become critical components of electronic sector. They are used in defense, they are used in computers, they are used in vehicles. And right now when we talk about the majority of semiconductors, they are being manufactured by the Taiwan, they are manufactured by the Taiwan and by the China also. We have dependence on them. Now what, guys, understand this thing, that when we talk about the semiconductor fabrication units, semiconductor fobs, fabrication units, deploying them is very expensive affair. So first what we are going to do, we are going to master in the designing of the semiconductors, and by the forward linkages over a period of time, semiconductor fabrication units will also be developed in India. Are you getting? If designing is happening, if we have expertise in this area, by forward linkages, fabrication plants will also be developed in India. So this is a long-term goal, to reduce the dependence on semiconductor imports. Then second is to build the supply chain resilience by integrating into the semiconductor global value chain. So when we talk about semiconductor, one part is production and one part is designing. So designing is an important part and we want to integrate India on that. Now see this thing. When we talk about China, you have heard that China is often said as the factory to the world. So as China has been the factory to the world, it got that particular tag by taking up the major share of the low-end manufacturing. Now the next fourth industrial revolution that is coming, this fourth industrial revolution will be powered by artificial intelligence, semiconductors, machine to machine communication, and here India wants to put itself on the global map. And by mastering the semiconductor design, India is putting forward itself into the global value chain. Okay, so this is something that has happened. Also, the third advantage is to double down on India's comparative advantage. Now, when we talk about India, India still boasts, India still plays host to the design houses. So all the major semiconductor players that are there in India, okay, for them, India is an important place for designing. We want to further complement it. We want to further leverage on it. So all these are the goals of the design linked incentive scheme, design linked incentive scheme. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that when we talk about design ecosystem, it is less capital intensive. I just told you that fabrication plants, they are highly capital intensive, but designing is less capital intensive, and working on that we can further move. For example, if we talk about, guys, China today, in the past what China did, China was just assembling the components, but today China is manufacturing their own. Okay, so by forward linkages, tomorrow we can develop our own fabrication plants industry in India. Now, what are the shortcomings in this particular scheme? The first shortcoming in this particular scheme is that scheme mandates that beneficiary startup. Now see, in this particular scheme, incentive in the range of 15 to 30 crore rupees will be provided to the startup. Okay, incentives between 15 to 30 crore rupees are provided to the startup. Now it has been provided that we are going to incentivize those particular startups that maintain their domestic status for at least 3 years. Now let's understand this thing. Suppose I have started a startup which specializes in the semiconductor designing. Today, 100% equity in the startup is of mine. Okay. Now, tomorrow, if I want to scale, what I need to do? I need to raise money from the other players. And often what happens, startups, they approach to the venture capitalist. And many number of times, venture capitalists are foreign. So, suppose I am raising money from US based venture capitalist, US based venture capitalist. Now, when this venture capital fund will give me money, they will ask the equity, they will ask the shares. Suppose they are investing 1000 crore rupees, and they ask that, okay, you need to give us 55% equity. 55% equity. Deal is finalized. I have given them 55% equity and got this 1000 crore rupees that I will use to scale my startup. But as I have given 55% equity to this US venture capital fund, ownership, ownership has actually went to the US. So it is now not a domestic startup. It is now not a domestic startup. It has become a foreign startup. Okay, why? Because the majority of ownership, majority of shares are in the name of this US based venture capital fund. Now, this design linked incentive scheme says that if you are aiming to get the incentive, you have to maintain the domestic status for at least 3 years after receiving the incentive. Now, what has happened? So here the founders, they come across a situation where if you want to raise money, if you want to get the government money, you cannot raise foreign funding. And if you have to raise foreign funding, then you are not eligible for that. And often founders, what they do, here 15 to 30 crore rupees is nothing compared to hundreds and hundreds of crore rupees that they can raise from overseas. So what they do, they go towards the overseas raising of funding. And because of that, a large number of startups are not interested in this particular scheme. So this is a significant barrier that has come. Then second significant barrier that has come in this particular capacity is that Center for Development of Advanced Computing, CDAC. CDAC. CDAC has been made as a nodal agency. CDAC has become as a nodal agency to approve the proposal of applicants. Okay, which startup will get, which startup will not get, who will approve? CDAC, that is the Center for Development of Advanced Computing. Now, what happens when we talk about CDAC, it's also a market player into the Indian chip design sector, and therefore a conflict of interest will come. A conflict of interest will come. The entity which is itself in the designing, when that entity is choosing the other companies in designing, a conflict of interest will come and fair scrutiny might not be there. So this is something that is also needed to be looked at. So guys, the article is saying this thing, that if we want to particularly focus or leverage on the design linked incentive scheme, if we want to emerge as a semiconductor manufacturing hub for the world, we need to come out with a recalibrated, very well thought strategy in this particular direction. So that is all guys about this particular article. And now we are going to move to the next article. Limits and borders. Limits and borders. Now this particular article guys, we are going to see with respect to GS paper number 2, issues related to federalism. Now first of all, before going in this particular article, let me give you some basic background and then we are going to go in this particular article. Now basically guys, if you see, here we have the map of India. And we have dedicated agencies, dedicated border protection forces who has the responsibility to protect the India's frontiers, India's borders. First of all, let's understand that and then we'll go in this particular article. So basically, here if you look carefully, here we have Pakistan border. Here we have Pakistan border. And it is whose responsibility to guard the India-Pakistan border? Fine. It is the responsibility of BSF. Fine. BSF, Border Security Force. So Border Security Force protects India's boundary with Pakistan. Then guys, also BSF has a responsibility to man India-Bangladesh border also. So here India-Bangladesh border, it is also manned by the BSF. Okay, then guys, here we have India-China border, who protects the India-China border. It is manned by ITBP. It is manned by ITBP. That is the Indo-Tibetan Border Police. Indo-Tibetan Border Police. Then guys, here we have Nepal border. Here we have Nepal border. So who mans Nepal border? Nepal border is manned by SSB. So Nepal's border, it is manned by SSB. Okay, SSB. SSB stands for Shahastra Seema Bal. Shahastra Seema Bal. Again, I'll repeat. Pakistan, BSF. Bangladesh, BSF. China, ITBP. Indo-Tibetan Border Police. Nepal, SSB. Shahastra Seema Bal. Then, okay, then we have Bhutan here. So it is now for Bhutan also we have the SSB. Bhutan also we have SSB, Shahastra Seema Bal. Okay, then guys, here we have Myanmar. For Myanmar we have Assam Rifles. For Myanmar we have Assam Rifles. For Myanmar, we have Assam Rifles. So I think that all have been done. Okay, fine. Uh, okay, moving on. So this is the mandate of the border protection agencies in India. Now, what has happened? Recently, Government of India has decided that BSF, Government of India has decided that the BSF, their operational zone will be increased from 15 kilometer to 50 kilometer in the state of Punjab, and West Bengal, in the state of Punjab and West Bengal. Okay, let's understand this particular thing in little bit more detail, and then we'll come again back here. So basically what has happened in 2021, center has issued a notification, and these notification has been issued under the provision of the BSF Act. And under this notification, it has provided that in Punjab and West Bengal, their operational limit will be extended from 15 kilometer to 50 kilometer, from 15 kilometer to 50 kilometer. Okay. However, guys, we see this particular thing that it was reduced from 80 kilometer to 50 kilometer in Gujarat. Now, I told you that BSF protects India, Pakistan. Okay, India's border with Pakistan. So in Gujarat also BSF will operate. So for Gujarat, it has been reduced from 80 kilometer to 50 kilometer. For Rajasthan, it has kept unchanged at 50 kilometer. Is it clear or not? Now, guys, understand this particular thing that yes, there are other areas, other states also which make the border with the Bangladesh, but the changes have come in the context of this. This was the notification that come. Now, understand this particular thing that Punjab government, they have moved to Supreme Court under Article 131. And Punjab says this particular thing that actually what has happened, there is the territorial extension that has been given to BSF by the center government. Now, guys, when we talk about the BSF, BSF operates BSF, it operates under the center government. BSF, it operates under the center government's jurisdiction. So it has been said that it is the imposition of a central government, a central entity onto the state administration, and it's a breach of federalism. It is a breach of federalism. And therefore, under Article 131, they have approached Supreme Court. Okay, so let's understand first of all what is Article 131. So Article 131 talks about the original jurisdiction of Supreme Court, and it has been provided that any state can directly reach to Supreme Court and it will have original jurisdiction in the matters or disputes between the government of India and one or more state. So Punjab has moved to the Supreme Court. Also, what has happened? Government of West Bengal also has not liked this particular idea, because there also the extension has been done. And West Bengal also, what they have done, West Bengal and Punjab, they have also passed a resolution in their assembly against the expansion of the BSF's mandate. Now, understand this particular thing that when we talk about the BSF, largely BSF is responsible in preventing the trans-border crimes. Often through the borders, lot of drugs are transported, many number of times human smuggling also happened, and often infiltration happens to the border. So trans-border crimes, etc., it will be prevented by BSF. Also, BSF prevents unauthorized entry into or exit from Indian territory. Now, when we talk about BSF works in tandem with the police. Okay, BSF, it does not have power to investigate or prosecute the offenders. What it can do, it has to hand over the arrested people, arrested offenders to the police, okay, to the local police, and then local police will further take over their operationalities. Now, guys, often it has been seen that when we talk about the BSF, they works in the coordination with the police. And up till now, the track record of BSF police cooperation has been good to a large extent. But state government has an apprehension that now what will happen, because Punjab and West Bengal specifically are being ruled by the political parties which are in opposition. Deliberately, these agencies will be used by center government to augment their power in the state. And they say that what can happen, it might lead to the federal breach. So therefore, they have moved to Supreme Court. Now, it has to be seen that what Supreme Court will rule in this particular direction. But even before that, guys, we need to understand that federal relations between the center and state, they are very sensitive, and they have to be dealt in utmost sensitive manner. Such politicization, if it is there behind the situation, should not be there. And if it is for genuine protective measures, then the state government also need to understand it. So that is all guys about this particular article. And now moving on to the next article. Okay. 22 Webber Fellows to build long-term research synergy. 22 Webber Fellows to build long-term research synergy. Now, guys, this particular article we are going to see with respect to GS paper number 2, issues related to Indian diaspora. Issues related to Indian diaspora. Now, what is a diaspora? Diaspora are the people of a particular country that are living in other country. For example, Indian citizens living in China, they are the India's diaspora in China. In people of Indian origin living in UK, they are the Indian diaspora in UK. Now understand this particular thing, guys, that in the past there is a lot of brain drain that has happened. What is this brain drain? Large number of people of India, they got, let's say, graduated in India, they became IITians in India, they did their graduation for aims, and for better prospects they have migrated to other countries. That is the brain drain that happened. Now government is focusing on brain gain. Now government is focusing on brain gain. We want to bring the talented academicians, talented researchers from the foreign countries back to India. And for this particular thing, government has come out with this Webber Fellowship Program. Webber Fellowship Program. Now, what is this Webber Fellowship Program? By this fellowship program, we are connecting back with our diaspora. So basically, what has happened? Department of Science and Technology, DST, it has announced that the first batch of the fellows of the Webber scheme, fine, they have announced the first batch of the Webber Fellowship scheme. Now, understand this particular thing. What has happened? 22 scientists has been chosen from North America and European institutions such as the California Institute of Technology, University of Oxford, and a lot more institutions are there. Now, these 22 researchers, scientists, they will be spending their time from a month to, okay, every year, 1 month, 2 month, up till 3 years, they will spend in India. And they will come to the Indian institutions such as IITs, will collaborate with the researchers that are in India, and would be working on some breakthrough technology, So what they will be doing? These researchers from North America and European institutions will come in India and would collaborate with IIC, Indian Institution of Science, IIT, Indian Institution of Technology. Okay, fine. And they will be working on some fundamental research. Now, these people who were selected, they will be given a stipend of rupees 4 lakh per month as well as accommodation. The host institution will get this particular funding from the government. The host institution will get a research grant from the government so that host institution can give the money to these particular researchers. Okay, so when they will come, they are going to work on long term, they are going to build long term research connections with the institution and would be collaborating. Okay, so this is one of an attempt to attract the Indian diaspora back, and it is an example of brain gain. You can mention these particular things when you are writing an answer onto the issues related to Indian diaspora, which is directly mentioned in GS paper number 2. GS paper number 2. Now, moving on. The next article that we have, Indian Army Special Forces contingent reaches Egypt for joint exercise Cyclone. This article we have taken from the PIB. Now guys, in this particular direction in prelims, a question is expected. What is Operation Cyclone or Exercise Cyclone that was recently in news? It is a defense exercise between India and Egypt. And is this happening for the first time? No, it is not happening for the first time. It is the second edition. It is a second edition, and it will be conducted from 22nd January till 1st of the February 2024. Where it will be conducted? It will be conducted in Anhassas, Egypt. First edition, which it was happened, it was conducted last year, and the first edition was in India. So, exercise Cyclone between which country? India and Egypt. It is the second edition, not the first edition. First edition was held in India last year. Second edition is being held in Egypt, that is Anhassas. Also, what is the aim of this exercise, Cyclone? Aim of this exercise is to acquaint both the sides with each other's operating procedures. Each other's operating procedure in the backdrop of special operation in desert and semi-desert terrain. So basically, what Egypt will help India? Basically how to operate in deserted terrain, semi-deserted terrain. Now if you see guys this thing, one front of India with the Pakistan is deserted. There is a possibility of a two front war in the future, and if it emerges, Indian forces need to have a know-how of arid and semi-arid terrain, deserted terrain. So operational capabilities would be provided. Also, it is a kind of a platform to achieve shared security objectives and to promote the friendly relation between both these two countries. So that is all about this operation, exercise Cyclone, exercise Cyclone. Then there is also one more exercise, that is exercise Khanjar, that is in news, exercise Khanjar. Now, this exercise Khanjar is in between which countries? It is in between India and Kyrgyzstan. India and Kyrgyzstan. And also, is it the first edition? No, it is not the first edition. It was started in 2011. It was started in 2011 and it was done in Nahan, India. And right now it is the 11th edition. This is an annual event conducted alternative in both the countries. Mean one in year India, then it was in Kyrgyzstan, then again India, Kyrgyzstan. So fine, it is alternated between the two countries. Now, what is the objective of this particular exercise? Objective of this particular exercise is to develop experiences and best practices in the counter-terrorism operations, special forces operation in mountainous terrain. Okay, so this is also very important. Khanjar focus is on mountainous terrain this year, and the focus of Cyclone was in arid or deserted terrain. So this is the difference here. Then guys, understand one particular thing will be common. Exercise happening in any two country, it will be an opportunity to build their bilateral relations, to build their friendly relations, technical know-how, tactical exchanges will be done. So fine, this particular exercise emphasizes on developing special forces skill, advanced techniques of insertion and extraction. Okay, now what is extraction? For example, there is a member of Indian strategic force operating, let's say, in some other country, and that person is facing some danger. We need to extract it back. That is extraction. Insertion is to deploy personnel in some other country for intelligence purpose or for some other purposes. So this would be a special focus of this exercise. Then moving on next. Okay, so Mpemba effect. Now, what is this Mpemba effect? It has recently been news, and let me give you one context. What happened recently? There was extensively cold winters in Canada. Many people, what they did, they were throwing boiling water out of the window and showing that, okay, how this boiling water have frozen in just a minute. And guys, what is this Mpemba effect? This is a very peculiar and a counterintuitive phenomena. Now, what is the common understanding? Common understanding is this, that a water, if it is cold, it will freeze first. We think that the boiling water, suppose you have cold water and you have boiling water. We think that the cold water will freeze first, boiling water will freeze later, but no, this is wrong. So Mpemba effect is that hot water can freeze faster than the cold water. Hot water, boiling water can freeze faster than the cold water. Now, why? Why? Basically, guys, as of now, we don't have any one consensus, but possible explanations of Mpemba effect that have come are like this. Number one, when you boil the water, in the boiling water, micro bubbles are created, and these micro bubbles, which are suspended over the water, these micro bubbles, they promote faster convection, and it leads to the faster transfer of heat, and water gets cooled down fastly because of these micro bubbles. These micro bubbles, it leads to expansive loss of heat, and because of that loss of heat, that water cools down fast and then it freezes. Then also, basically, we see that the boiling water is evaporating, and because of this evaporating, what happens? This evaporating leads to the faster heat loss in the warming water, and actually this evaporating leads to the faster cooling by endothermic process. Then next is, warmer water has lower density. warmer water. So as the water will be lower, okay, it will become more and sorry, as the water will become low, it will become less and less dense. And due to this low density, what happens, it enhances further the convection, the transfer of heat. It enhances convection, the transfer of heat, and because of that, what happened, the freezing process, it gets speeded up, it gets fastened up. Then next is that, see, in the cold water there is a frost. In cold water there is a frost, and these frost, what it do, it does, it acts as an insulator, it acts as an insulator. And because of that, the cold water does not freezes that fast as the hot water will freeze. And then what happened, compounds in the water like calcium carbonate, okay, they could be precipitated by the boiling, okay, and they can be dissolved, which what happens, increases the freezing point of the water. And as the freezing point of water will increase, fine, basically it will impact the uh, so it increases the freezing point, okay, and the water gets frozen down quickly. So these are the possible explanations, but one explanation is not there. And let's say on such lines, in the past question has been asked. So if a question comes that Mpemba effect was recently in news, it is related to what? So it is related to the phenomena that boiling water freezes faster than the cold water. Okay, moving on. Then we have the article Bhishma Cube. Bhishma Cube. Now, guys, actually, what happened? Recently, Bhishma Cube was deployed in Ayodhya temple event, and and one of the person's life was saved because of this Bhishma Cube facility. So, therefore, this Bhishma Cube becomes important. Let's understand that what is this Bhishma Cube. So, Bhishma, it stands for Bharat Health Initiative for Sahyog, Hit and Maitri. Fine, and it is a project under Arogya Maitri. It is a project under Arogya Maitri. Now what it is, it is the state of the art, portable, quickly deployable mobile hospital. It is portable means you can take it from one place to other place. Quickly deployable means within very less time it can be deployed. So it is a portable, mobile, quickly deployable, state of the art hospital. Okay, and this particular mobile hospital, it was enacted in Ayodhya, so that if there is some kind of a medical casualty, it could be dealt, and it saved the life of a person who faced a cardiac arrest. Now, when we talk about this Arogya Maitri, what is Arogya Maitri project? Arogya Maitri, it is a project where India will supply vital medical resources to a developing nation or to a nation which has faced a crisis, which has faced a disaster. So, guys, when we talk about India, Arogya Maitri, fine, which is the part of the India's medical diplomacy. Okay, fine. So what we are going to do? We are going to support the developing country or a country during the time of crisis, etc. Now this Bhishma Cube, it can treat up to 200 casualties and can give rapid response and comprehensive care. And this Bhishma Cube, it is equipped with several innovative tools which can help and which can provide medical assistance into the times of the disaster. Also, it deploys artificial intelligence, data analytics to provide the real-time resource management, to provide real-time resource management. So AI capabilities are also there. Okay, so this is something that is there, and guys, this can be used in your answers, that how further Indian diplomacy is also moving along. In the Indian diplomacy, one of a pillar of India to connect with the developing country, it is Arogya Maitri. It is Arogya Maitri. So that is all, guys, about this particular article. I hope that you have understood it. Okay, so guys, this is about it, and with this we come to an end to the today's session. Guys, I hope that you have liked the session, and guys, if you have liked, please do hit the like button, and our attempt is only one, to ensure that how this initiative can become one stop solution for you. So that is all, guys, for today. Thank you so much.